You might want to transition more than one property at a time. To do so, you simply place a comma after the first property and duration, and then code the second property and duration. Transition can also take a third value that changes its timing. Two very commonly used timing values are ease in and ease out. Ease in makes the transition happen more slowly at first, and then speeds up the transition toward the end of its duration. And ease out does the opposite. In our example, we have a checkbox that, when checked, transitions an image into view. To code this up, we have an image with a height of 0 and an opacity of 0. This hides the image. When the checkbox is checked, our second state, we can transition the opacity and the height of our image. To select the image, we first code the checkbox checked pseudo-selector, followed by the adjacent selector, and then the general image selector. The adjacent selector, a plus sign, needs a selector before and after it. It looks to find an element directly after the first element, in terms of order, in your HTML. In fact, the word adjacent means directly next to. This will make sure that when the checkbox is checked, the image is selected. We can then transition our image's height and opacity, and, of course, we place the transition property on the general image selector. Lastly, we separate the two properties we want to transition with commas. Now if I click the checkbox in the browser, the image slides down. In our next example, we'll use transitions to show if input data is valid. We start with a text input and a red label. But if we type 4 or more characters, the font size decreases and the label turns green. In our code, we have an input with the min length attribute with a value of 4. We use this attribute to validate form data and to make sure that the text input has at least 4 characters. We can use the invalid pseudo-selector to select any input elements that have invalid data. In our case, a text input with less than 4 characters. When this happens, we select the label element, color it red, and increase the font size. When the input is valid, we select the label and make the text smaller and green.